Welcome everybody to the October 9th, 2018 Carpinteria Unified School District Board meeting. We're going to start with the flag salute, so please stand if you're able. Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Just wanted to let audience members know that we do have interpretation equipment available if anyone is in need of it, and you can see Monica if you would like to use it. And we're going to start with our oath of office with Marissa. So Marissa, I'm going to meet you over there at the podium. Okay? All right, we're welcoming Marissa Marta as our student rep for the 2018-2019 school year. So I'm going to have you raise your right hand. Okay. And when I say state your name, you're going to state your whole name. Okay? All right. I,
Marissa Marta,
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will be true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservations or purpose of invasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, we're going to move on to item B3, approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Right. B4, approval of agenda and consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
I'd like to pull items C3 and C9, please.
Okay, we'll move both of those to business operations. Okay, can I get a roll call?
Maureen,
Aye.
Rogelio,
Aye.
Jacqueline,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
and I'm aye.
All right, we're on to public interest reports and presentations, and D1 is Copacabana grant presentations. Not yet?
Not yet.
Okay, so we're going to table that till the presenters get here and move on to D2, student representative report.
Hi. So last week was very busy for Carpenter High School. On Wednesday, we held our annual college fair, and all students were invited to attend. Over 25 colleges and universities had representatives available to answer any questions and to promote their institution. On Thursday, Virtual Enterprise attended a regional meeting at South Pasadena High School. Our VE students gained many necessary skills to prepare for future regional and national competitions. I actually went to that, and it was very helpful, so it was great. On that same day, our 9th grade AVID students took a tour of Cal State Los Angeles. This week is also a very busy week at Carpenter High School. Tomorrow, our FFA leadership team will be traveling to Fillmore for their first regional competition. On Thursday and Friday, we will be having all TK and K students from Aliso, Catalina, and Summerlin and Family School will visit our first pumpkin patch at Carpenter High School. Students will learn about buoyancy and how pumpkins grow. On Sunday, October 14th through the 17th, the visiting committee from the Western Association of Schools and Colleges will be conducting its self-study review of Carpenter High School. We are very confident that they will enjoy their time at CHS and validate our self-study findings. Next week is also our Spirit Week and Homecoming festives. The crowning of our homecoming queen is on Friday, October 19th, and the dance will be held Saturday, October 20th, and Mr. Warriors next Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're on to D3 recognitions.
Thank you. So I'll begin with the high school. On behalf of Principal Corneo, we'd like to recognize David Pennington. He's the after-school coordinator. His ability to inspire students to participate in the many program offerings is a testament to his dedication to our students. And then at Rincon, Principal Glover would like to recognize Matt Simon and the City of Carpenter area for providing awesome kayaking experiences for the Rincon students. During the month of September, Matt Simon and Parker Birchfield led the students on kayaks out to the reef by Cart Point, and the students learned how to kayak, they viewed sea life, and they had an unforgettable experience. So we really appreciate the City of Carpinteria. At CMS, Principal O'Shea would like to recognize Meredith Parton for her hard work and dedication in leading the ELA department. She's the English Language Arts teacher as well as the department chair for English Language Arts. And then at Canalino and Family School, Principal Pursoon would like to recognize all the special educational instructional assistants for their continuous support of students with positive behavioral support and goals for student progress towards the IEP goals. At Aliso, Principal Fox would like to recognize our HR Director, Deanna Zapata, for all her work in supporting Aliso and all the new hires at Aliso. And then at Summerlin, we'd like to recognize Judy Holler she's the office coordinator, for her ongoing support to all the parents and staff of Summerlin Elementary. She wears many hats. We appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to your superintendent report.
Sure. So I'd like to continue with appreciation and recognition. I'd like to recognize Dr. Maria Chesley, and she's here tonight in the audience, is going to present for us. She's the director of the Carpenter Children's Project, and we appreciate her for providing high-quality early childhood education, parent education, and community support services for our students and their families. Our partnership with the Carpinteria Children's Project is critical in supporting success for our students and their families. So thank you, Maria. I'd also like to share that our 2019 Santa Barbara County Teacher of the Year, Mandy DeWitt, who is a biology teacher at the high school as well as a department chair, she was recognized at the Carpinteria Valley Legislative Breakfast last week with 37th District Assembly Member Monique Limon, and as well as our Senator,
Hannah
thank you, Hannah Beth Jackson. Yes, thank you. So we're proud of Mandy. As Marissa mentioned, the WASC accreditation is occurring at the high school. The WASC is the Accrediting Commission for Schools, Western Association of Schools and Colleges. It is a world-renowned accrediting association and one of the 6 regional accrediting agencies in the United States. This Commission for Schools extends its services to more than 5,000 public, independent schools, pre-K to 12, as well as adult schools. It works with 18 associations in the joint accreditation processes and collaborates with other organizations, such as the California Department of Education. And the Department of Education has collaborated with WASC in order to align the process with the planning process for the California Public Schools required, the LCAP, the Single Plan for Student Achievement, as well as the LCAP that's required by state and federal statutes. The philosophy of the Accrediting Commission for Schools centers upon 3 beliefs. Number 1, a school's goal is successful student learning. Number 2, each school has a clear purpose and school-wide student goals. And number 3, a school engages in external and internal evaluations as part of the continued school improvement to support student learning. So as Marissa mentioned, on October 14th, the WASC Visiting Committee will be conducting the process at the high school, which occurs every 3 to 6 years, to evaluate how well the high school is providing high-quality learning opportunities for students, and it's also engaging in continual self-reflection and improvement. The Visiting Committee consists of principals, teachers, and counselors from other California districts who've been trained in the WASC process, and they will determine if the high school's self-study accurately reflects the progress on the WASC standards. Those standards are focused on student-centered decision-making, student achievement, highly qualified faculty, effective school organization and management, high-quality educational programs, effective instruction, implementation of school-wide learning outcomes, and continuous improvement. The next item refers to our CASP statewide results were released last week. Carpinteria students performed below the statewide average, which was 48% of all students were at and above grade level for English language arts in California, and in math, 38% were at and above grade level. For Carpinteria, 44% of our students were at and above grade level for English language arts, and for math, we were at the statewide average at 38% at and above grade level. Our performance was at the average for Santa Barbara County districts in English language arts and slightly higher in math. However, the results are disappointing, and you will see that in our district goals, superintendent goals, and in our LCAP, as well as in our single plan for student achievement at all the school sites, will be particularly focused on increasing student achievement in English language arts and math, particularly for disaggregated groups of students, for our English learners, for our students who have low socioeconomic status, as well as for our students with disabilities. The next item that will support and help us in our work on focusing on improving student learning is professional learning for teachers. We now have early release day every week on a Wednesday, K-8, and a late start Monday for high school. And the elementary teachers participate in weekly workshops during the early release Wednesdays. And this last month, they've been learning more about their new English language arts curriculum and the new science curriculum. At the middle school, teachers have been learning more about the Google Classroom and the G Suite education apps that are particularly focused on increasing student engagement. And the high school teachers are using part of the Google Suite is Pear Deck, which is the third most commonly used app out of the G Suite in classrooms, and it's focused on increasing student engagement and active student participation. The next item refers to our District Advisory Committee. On November 9th. It should say November 8th. Yes, it's a Thursday night at 6 p.m. The Carpinteria Unified School District Boardroom, 1400 Linden Ave. The Real Property District Advisory Committee will conduct a public hearing on its preliminary recommendations concerning the disposition of the 2 unused school sites at Baylord and Whitney. And at the same meeting, following the close of the public hearing, the DAC may submit its final recommendation to the CUSD Governing Board. The preliminary recommendations and background information are as follows. The first District Advisory Committee recommendation was to designate the Whitney Avenue site, which is on Temple Street in Summerlin, 6.84 acres, as surplus and sell or otherwise dispose of the site in accordance with law. This site was acquired in approximately 1955 and has been unused during the interim. Earlier plans to potentially relocate the existing Summerlin School to this location have been studied and rejected, and this site has been considered for possible sale for the past 10 years, or since the past 10 years. The second DAC recommendation was to designate 1101 and 1103 Baylord Avenue sites. They're 2 contiguous properties. One is 3.78 acres, the other one is 3.20 acres with improvements, as surplus and sell or otherwise dispose of the sites in accordance with law. These sites were acquired in 2000 for a possible new school. However, sustained enrollment declines have ruled out any future utilization for a new school, and this site has also been considered for possible sale for several years. And the sale proceeds from these properties are restricted to capital projects and are under the purview of the board. The board will decide how to use the sale proceeds. Measure U. So tonight we had the ribbon cutting ceremony for our Gen 7 classrooms on the Canalino and Family School site, and I know you all were as impressed as I was for those brand new classrooms and wonderful learning environment for our teachers and students. We are so proud. So our Measure U team continues to focus on construction of Gen 7 classrooms. So we're completed at Canalino, and as you know, the chairs and desks and tables were delivered last week, and students will move into the classrooms on Monday, October 22nd. So they're very excited. At the high school, the crews continue to finish working inside their Gen 7 classrooms, and they're building retaining walls and benches. And then the Gen 7 classrooms at the middle school, they're using cranes to set them down on their foundations. Another Measure U item is that Maureen and I traveled to San Francisco last week to present to the bond rating agencies, and the notice of the sale bonds will be posted this week, and next week the Series B bonds for $40 million will be sold, and I'm happy to report it's unbelievable. AAA bond rating for the sale.
That's super
Yes,
cool.
thanks to Maureen. Good job, Maureen. And Ford. Fabulous. That's fabulous news. That will save the community a lot of money. So we're really proud about that. And then the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee will meet on Tuesday, October 16th at 5:30 to review the expenditure reports for measure year.
Thanks. Any questions or comments for Diane?
Oh, just, I had a question about the scores. Is there going to be a more extensive presentation on those?
Yes, in our single plan for student achievement, each school site will be presenting their scores.
And when is that?
They will start presenting in November.
And then, because I think in the past we've just kind of done a district-wide overview of the scores. How do these compare? I think what's helpful is because as a district, we're sort of overseeing the entire district. It would be helpful, at least from my point of view, to understand how these scores compare with years past.
Yes, they're lower than years past. Yes, you recall last year we were 60%, closer to 60% for English language arts. We were in the 50%, and math was in 43%. So this year it's lower. All scores are lower in California. All Santa Barbara County scores were lower this year. So we're following the same trend as the state and the county.
Thank you.
If you go on the website, they have the data pretty well organized, and then you can do all kinds of comparison. I thought that was really fascinating, just to look through the district and the schools. It's really fascinating looking at the figures.
So each school site will discuss their student achievement results. They'll discuss the disaggregated group of student results. They'll discuss what the goals are and what activities we're going to put in place to ensure that the student learning is more advanced for next year.
I just think it's really important that as a district we have a handle on the scores and especially any sort of achievement gap.
Yes.
So I'm a little surprised that we're not taking a moment to do that at some point. So.
Okay, we're going to return to item D1, the Copacabana grant presentations, and I believe.
Waiting for the Brown family to.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, we're not here yet.
We're
They're
going to
not here
table
yet.
that
Yes.
again, and then so Dr. Chelsea is going to present the Carpinteria Children's presentation.
Thank you, Maria.
You bet. Thank you so much for having us. Thank you, Monica. I'm going to briefly overview what we do, the Carpinteria Children's Project, and then go into a little bit more detail on our budget, our programs, and what makes the Carpinteria Children's Project and Carpinteria Unified School District Partnership so extraordinary. And along the way, I'm going to invite a couple of colleagues up to say a few words. So I'm Maria Chesley. I'm the Executive Director of the Carpinteria Children's Project. Our mission is to help all children and families in Carpinteria be ready for success in kindergarten and beyond. We can't do that alone. We know that the whole community must work together for children and families to be healthy and strong learners. The school district and CCP work very closely together. We talk about it as hand in glove. I often participate in the leadership team with the school district administrators, and Diana sits as ex officio on our board. And that's one of the ways in which we stay closely together. CCP supports the school district in several ways. One is by providing preschool classrooms and linking the school district to other preschool classrooms in town. We also provide classes for parents in both English and Spanish. We teach nurturing parent and family literature. We have an Al-Anon group and women's support groups. And we also coordinate classes that are provided by other providers. There's a Mommy and Me class provided by Calm, a Healthy Relationships and ESL for adults provided by City College. We link families to other providers, and the majority of those referrals come from Carpinteria Unified School District counselors. Our next slide. This is our fabulous staff, almost everyone in our fabulous staff. This year during our August professional development days. And these were some back to school, first day of school pictures. I wish you could have been with me when the family on the left, this little boy came in for his first day of school. He's 3. He wanted to wear the collared shirt. He was so proud. The whole family came with him. And it was just one of those moments that you wish you could just bottle and save. I wish you all could have been there. So a little more detail on our budget. Last year, I also provided an overview of our revenue budget, and the next slide is an expense budget, and there's nothing terribly different between last year and this year. Almost about 45% of our revenue budget there in the orange is from our investing foundations who have been with us for the 10 years that we've been in place. Michelle knows all about this as she was there at the beginning. And these folks are still with us, and we don't know what we would do without them. We're incredibly grateful. The J.S. Bauer Foundation, the Wood Kleisens Foundation, Linked, Althwaite, La Centra Summerlin, and the Santa Barbara Foundation, combined $720,000 this year. We bring in about $435,000 in parent-paid fees. So our early childhood education classes, some families are there on vouchers that are provided by the state for welfare, families on welfare to work programs. Some families are on scholarship that we raise money for, up to 50% scholarship, and some families are full pay. So the pay part that we bring in is there about $435,000. We have about $294,000 in contracts and reimbursements for work that we do. And an area for growth for us is that yellow sliver, individual donors and classroom fundraising, and that is an area that we are working on. Our expense budget, like the school district, we are all about people, and most of our budget is people. We've been able to bring that down a little bit compared to previous years. We are finding, as I'm certain is true with the district, that medical insurance is going up, and a core value of ours, though, is strong support for our teachers and our staff so that they can provide strong support for children and families. Okay. And our programs at a glance. So this is about what's going on this year in these programs. And for that, I invite first Martha Haro, who's our program director for early childhood education.
So in our ECE programs, early childhood education programs, we have 73 children enrolled. In our after-school programs, we have 22 more. And we also have inclusion children in our special ed. Those make up 22 more. And this year, we implemented a new curriculum in our classrooms. It's called Creative Curriculum. And also, with our 4-year-olds, we have Second Step, which is a social emotional curriculum in all of the 4-year-old classrooms. And this is good because Second Step is also being used later on in the kindergarten and all elementary schools. So it's a good start for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Martha. And now I invite up Chris Sobel, our coordinator, and I'm going to talk about the Family Resource Center. Right, sorry, I missed the card. So our Family Resource Center this year is focusing on a couple new things. One is a new strategy. We're offering gift cards to families to make it a little more workable for them as they are participating in classes or family support programs. So that's something that we're trying out this year. And I'll talk later in the presentation about our Adverse Childhood Experiences pilot that we are doing with the Carpinteria Healthcare Clinic. At this time, I would like to invite Chris Sobel, our coordinator.
Hello. I'm going to talk about the Collective Impact Network, which is really our partner network that really started to be more formalized about 4 years ago. We couldn't do what we do at Carpinteria Children's Project without having our partners and the service agencies that they represent on site. Almost all of them are part-time, but they're there to serve the needs of our families so they don't have to leave Carpinteria to get services. We have 12 partners that are on site or near. One is nearby site. Calm is one who does counseling for us. And for our families, we have the Carpinteria Healthcare Clinic, which we've become much tighter involved with in the last year as we're doing ACEs work, and Maria will talk more about that. We have the Community Action Commission there with our Head Start students. We have Compassionate Care of Carpinteria, which is Santa Barbara Hospice, brought to Carpinteria, and they started there this year, and I can say that it's really grown well because they keep asking us for more space, more hours that they can come there too. We have County Supervisor's office there, Das Williams, or his staff is there every Friday, and sometimes on Monday afternoons they've reserved their room because we also share their room with partners. Department of Social Services is there 1 day a week, which gives Medi-Cal and CalFresh help and enrollment. Family Service Agency is also here, and they do counseling for our families and children also. Maternal Child Adolescent Health is here working with the students who need it or children that need it. Santa Barbara City College ESL classes 4 days a week on site and very full classes. Santa Barbara County Department of Behavioral Wellness, another agency who's doing counseling with our clients. Women, Infants, and Children, WIC, two days a month are there to help our women with their childhood and all that stuff, or having children and things. And we have the Workforce Development Board is lastly. So they're all on site. We do hold a monthly meeting. It's a lunch meeting that we meet with our partners, enables us to kind of find out what each other's doing and get closer and improve what we're doing and how we work together. So next slide, is it that one? Where am I aiming? Wrong one?
There we go.
Okay. This chart shows the number of CUSD children who have parents who have a relationship with us. In other words, they come to the Carpinteria Children's Projects for various things. This is actually a smaller number than it really is, but we don't have, that's what we think, because we have a lot more clients with children than that, but some of them we just don't know the actual names of them. We're trying to get all that information, but we don't always get it. So it's probably a little more than that 400 shown, that 400 children have parents that come to, or caregivers that come and work with us. They do that in different ways. The parents might be taking parent classes from us. Some of them are already mentioned by Maria, Nurturing Parent, Mommy and Me, Parent Cafe, Parent Literature, or Family Literature. We have a few support groups going on, including a new one called Grandparents Support Group, which has been very, very successful and popular. They also might participate in our Balloterapia, an exercise class, 3 days a week in the late afternoon. We're taught in the auditorium, really great. Everyone is welcome. And we also collaborate with the swim, with our pool here, to have a parent-child swim class there. They also may come to see us through a request for service or referral that we get from outside agencies, from our partners, and very frequently, almost half the time, from CUSD counselors or teachers. So once we get them, we receive them in the Family Resource Center, and then we, with our family liaisons who work there, then work with the families to get the services they need. And those are lots of services: basic needs, food, clothing, and housing, although we can't help with housing, right? But we try to get them on the list at self-help housing. Help with obtaining child care and early childhood education, preschools, assistance in Medi-Cal and CalFresh sign up, obtaining food through our monthly food bank, assistance in signing the children up for Unity Shop and for Operation School Bell to get school supplies and other assets of things they need. Counseling, which I've already mentioned. And also the other thing, we get the parents from UCSD coming to our events. We have quite a few events during the year focusing on families. And coincidentally, this week, on Thursday from 3 to 6 p.m., we are having our Family Health Fair. It's our annual fair, a 7th one, over 25 agencies, something for everyone there, screenings, BMI, blood pressure, fluoride varnish will be given to the children, and dental eye screenings. And it's a lot of fun. We invite everyone in the community. We would like to exceed the number that attended last year, which was 212. So come by and visit us. And that's why we're getting the families, and we really do. You can see there's many, many ways that CUSD parents get involved with us. They form the base of our clientele, and we sincerely believe that the family grows stronger through their relationship with us. And we appreciate the strong relationship we have with CUSD because together we can help our families thrive. Thank you.
Thank you.
What do I have? That's yours. Don't steal that, right? Great. Thank you. One of the things that is a great opportunity that the Carpinteria Children's Project has is the flexibility that we are afforded in large part because of the way we are funded by these longtime donors. We are flexible enough to meet the needs of the community as they arise. And it was particularly gratifying to host the community gathering after the mudslides. I know many of you were there. That was our auditorium full of just sad, grieving people on that day. And we were very happy with our board members and community volunteers to pull together that day. FEMA came. It was the first time they had come to Carpinteria, as I understand it, and it also provided opportunities for children to process all that they were dealing with there. You see a drawing from one child. And we could not have done it without our volunteers and donors who made our outreach and emergency efforts possible. And we have a growing partnership with LinkedIn. They held one of our, I believe, 6 emergency food distributions during that time. And during that time, we learned how many folks were coming for food, and Food Bank encouraged us to, in fact, switch to a late afternoon food distribution, which we now do, and that's the kind of line we get out the door. We're serving generally over 100 people once a month with fruits and vegetables and meats and dairy products and what the Food Bank brings. So this is on the 4th Wednesday of the month from 4:30 to 5:30, open to all. In addition to our ability to respond to emerging community needs, CCP is excited to have embarked with the school district on a new campaign around prevention and intervention of adverse childhood experiences. This started in 1995. Kaiser did a study in Southern California of folks with medical insurance, and they surveyed about 17,000 patients and asked them about childhood experiences and their health status and their behaviors. And some of the adverse childhood experiences that they asked about were emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, household substance abuse, household mental illness, divorce. And what they found was that almost 40% of those patients reported that they had 2 or more adverse childhood experiences, and 12.5% reported that they had 4 or more. And what we know is that was a relatively well-to-do group. They all had medical insurance. And what we find is that adverse childhood experiences are experienced by all of us. It cuts across culture, race. People of all income levels experience adverse childhood experiences. And there's a dose-response relationship. The more you experience, the more likely it is that you will have a difficult time. Adverse childhood experiences are known to reduce your ability to learn or process information effectively. That can result in problems in school. There's being keyed up all the time, that fight and flight response, not being able to turn that off. That can result in aggressive behavior, defiant behavior, and problems with learning and memory and making friends. There's hope, lots of hope. Resilience reduces the effects of ACEs and toxic stress. And the most important factor is an adult who's buffering and teaching children how to deal with adverse childhood experiences. Our awareness campaign in Carpinteria, started in March. We kicked it off with a documentary shown at the Alcazar Theater, Resilience, the Biology of Stress and the Science of Hope. We partnered with the Department of Social Services and screened this documentary for the Carpinteria community. And we were thrilled. Diana led an effort, and we were honored to be a part where we screened it again with the
CUSD teachers at their first day back to school. They were very engaged. It was just a delightful morning. So what do adverse childhood experiences and resilience look like in schools? So this is a high school classroom in Washington State where a lot of research around ACEs in schools has been done. And what we see is, of a typical classroom of 30 in Washington State, there are 6 students who have not had any childhood experiences. 5 with 1, 6 with 2, 7 children who have had 4 or 5 adverse childhood experiences, and 3 with 6 or more. This study was done at the elementary level, but I'm sure the effects are similar. The more adverse childhood experiences a child has endured or is dealing with, the more likely they are to have academic concerns. Traumatic experiences impact what happens at school in terms of learning, behavior, and relationships. We are really excited to be partnering with the Public Health Department, who in January will start a pilot in Carpinteria that we hope will spread. We intend for it to spread. And the pediatricians will be screening children 0 to 24 months and their parents for adverse childhood experiences. And if they exist, they will be offered an opportunity to be referred to our Family Resource Center, where we have a series of educational lessons for the parents, as well as opportunities for a structured family support program through the Family Development Matrix, which we are enhancing to serve as a bit of a needs assessment. The researchers have identified 6 areas that we can focus on to help parents and children cope with adverse childhood experiences and prevent additional adverse childhood experiences. Those are healthy relationships. There's no surprise to any of these. They're well-being. Healthy relationships, nutrition, exercise, quality sleep, mindfulness, and mental health services. We are adding to those financial stability, because if you don't have that, it's really hard to get the other ones. And we're also adding a focus on parenting because of the age group that we are dealing with. We're really excited about that. I look forward to updating you on the progress as that moves along. And I wanted to leave you with a quote from one of our advisors who's working with us in the county. And it gets at the core of what we can do to help kids and families. There will never be enough mental health services or mental health practitioners to heal all the brokenness that exists in our world. But there are enough of us to reach out to every child, parent, neighbor, and coworker to form caring and supportive relationships that will mitigate the impact of ACEs and strengthen resilience. And I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Questions and comments for Maria?
I actually have a question. So you were once a part of CUSD and you transitioned to an independent 501c3. How has that worked out for you in terms of operations and programs? Has it changed a lot? Are you more or less effective? Can you share with us a little bit about being a 501c3?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. Yes, we transitioned out of the school district effective January 1, 2017. It was a big effort on your part and on our part. And I truly believe that it has set us up to be sustainable for the long haul. We are managing all our own business services now. That's a lot as a small group, and that there has certainly been a steep learning curve for us in that. But we're getting to a point that feels pretty stable. You know, we're still learning things, but we're starting to do things for the second time, which feels a lot better. Our board strives to grow. We have a small board now, but it's a very special board. Most of the folks on our board are from those foundations who fund us. They have felt strongly that they wanted to support us through to make sure that we got off on the right foot as a 501c3. And we're very pleased to, be adding community members and just really grateful for the work that everyone has put in. In terms of programs, to be honest, there hasn't really been change. That was our goal, was to maintain our staff, which largely we did, not completely, but largely, and to keep our programs just running smoothly, so that what we hoped was that our early childhood parents, the only thing they would notice was they no longer wrote a check to Carpinteria Unified, they wrote a check to Carpinteria Children's Project. And I feel good about that. I feel that we were able to do that pretty well, and now we're poised to really grow. So this ACES project is a great first project that we've been waiting for, and now we're ready, and we're ready to go.
Maria, thank you very much, and on behalf of the children of Carpinteria,
Thank you.
we all thank you.
Thank you.
Maria, again, thank you. I think I'm the only one maybe in the room whose child has graduated from the preschool there. Yay! Yay! So it's very personal to me, this program, and I, if I'm of course, am biased, but we are just so blessed to have this, the preschool, but all the myriad of other family services. And I think, people with cars may not understand the travail that it is to try and get some of these social services for our very low-income families. It's an hour-long bus ride into Santa Barbara. And if that means an hour-long bus ride to get food, to get clothing, to get counseling help, to get support, it's just not tenable for families with small children. And that was the reality until this organization, this kind of umbrella existed. And so what I really appreciate is the collaboration and the can-do attitude, the kind of identifying the need, not waiting for the needs to sort of overflow, but really identifying the needs, anticipating the needs, and then building programs around those. And I also appreciate the collaboration. So those two things are, to me, really impressive, and things that you may not, I don't think anyone understands how much is going on there, maybe besides you. So it's really an impressive organization. And the last thing I want to say is, and maybe it's a moot point at this point, but I'm just really glad you're doing the ACES program. And the other piece, the only piece I've heard from the community that they might like to see come back somehow is the sort of scholarship program for CUSD teachers, where they got a little bit of a discount with childcare at the preschool. Maybe that's no longer relevant or possible or feasible, but I know that was something that definitely kept our families in our district, our teaching families in our district. So it might be something to revisit at some point. So, but otherwise, thank you so much for all you do, and thanks for the great collaboration.
Thank you. And just to echo your point, it takes a village. It takes all the partners. It takes the hand-in-glove relationship with the school district, and that's how over time we really will make a difference, as we have already, but we will continue making a difference for the families of Carpinteria and the community as a whole.
Yeah, and I actually spoke at that
did
at that handout day, and it was one of the most moving days I've ever participated in Carpinteria, because it was really a community grief outpouring, but also beginning of a healing point. So it's just incredible what the organization can do.
And you put that presentation together so quickly. I mean,
the
whole event came together so quickly. It really was a testimony to the community and the strength of the community. Yeah, I'll never forget it either. It was remarkable.
Yeah, it's incredible. Thank you.
Thank you.
And one more comment.
Well, I just have one comment. And thanks for your hard work and the great presentation.
Absolutely.
And your staff. I mean, it is. I think we all see the tangible effects and results of this program. As the students enter our system, and I think it carries on throughout. But I'm curious if there's a model, or if you've come up with a model yet. Kind of similar to how we did with the KSEP readiness in the kindergarten. If there's any thought on with this ACES program on how that can kind of be tracked, and I haven't really formulated the right question, but if you've been able to come up with a formula, or thought about coming up with a formula or a program to track the effects of your therapeutic program as it responds to these ACEs, and how that would then go into improving readiness and learning at a higher level.
Diana and I have had this conversation. We've started it. We completely agree with you that we want to follow these children as they enter and continue through Carpinteria Unified. In fact, cross your fingers, a first step in this is that we've applied for a grant from Cottage Health Systems, which will provide a research component to this pilot. We're doing the pilot's happening, but we're hoping through this grant that we'll be able to add not just some counseling time. We've applied for a couple days of counseling, one from CALM and one from FSA, but also so that we can bring in just communities to interview the staff members of our FRC and the healthcare clinic, but most importantly, the families who experience the interventions, so that we can learn from them, bring their voice to the table. What worked, what didn't work, how could we have, helped improve your situation earlier? What would you like to see us do in the future? And cross your fingers, I'm hoping that we get that so that we can strategically and systematically get the family voice and help us improve as we move forward, with the goal ultimately of healthy and successful families as children enter kindergarten and beyond.
So you could use the family development matrix as the pre kind of, and then progression and exit kind of that as benchmarks, and then maybe even the Healthy Kids survey at the end of
that's an
at the end
idea.
game or something like that.
We're going to do in addition to the ACEs screen, a resilience screen, and then also an expanded family development matrix, just like you're suggesting.
That'll be a good tool.
Yeah.
So I just want to finally say, of course, how very proud I am of Carpinteria Children's
Our hats
project.
off to you, Michelle.
And just, yay, I started it, but you've just really taken it to the best levels. And I can't imagine anybody else being as qualified as you to lead that. And thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Well, I
And a
could
gem
not
for
do it.
Carpinteria.
It's the
I know,
whole team
it's
for
a
sure.
definitely a team
Yes,
effort. But
yes.
thank you. very
Thank
much,
you.
Maria.
Thanks, Maria.
Okay. Right, I am going back to D1 now.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I think we have Pam Warner here and a Copacabana grant presentation for our arts program. Oh, which a big check carried by
Yeah.
students.
I'm
I
sure
love
we
it.
do. Yeah.
Let's take a picture for coastal view.
Yeah. Right.
Good evening. I'm proud to be here on behalf of CEF and the Board of Directors with the Brown and Isaac families. We have Luke Brown, Zachary Isaac, and Amelia Isaac. And they are here to present the $40,000 gift to the district for the K-5 arts program to the Board of Directors.
Oh, that's exciting. Let's get you on TV there.
There you go.
Yourselves on TV, $40,000.
A little bit higher.
Yes. Gosh, thank you. We are so happy for that. Comments? Anybody?
Well, I think as a former arts educator, you're never a former arts educator, but as an artist and arts educator, I think this brings a much needed program back into our schools on a hopefully more sustainable, ongoing basis. So that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the Brown. Where are you guys? All hiding in the corner back there. I'd just like to thank you, Mike and Jessica and Mac especially for really stepping up here and helping fund this program that that the district is really going to benefit from, and it's a testament to you guys and your commitment to the community and interest in public education. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, really
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank you.
that. Okay, we're on to item D6, Carpinteria Unified School District Transportation Department presentation, and we have Supervisor Michael Littlejohn tonight. Welcome.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, it's right there. I got it. So my challenge today is not to be moving around as an instructor. Normally I'm moving around, engaging my students as I go and pointing to different things, various displays and whatnot. So part of this is going to be a challenge for me to stay put tonight. So let's go for a ride. School bus transportation industry has been quietly and effectively doing its work for over a century. It is the dedication that we put into this important yet complex service that has made the yellow school bus the safest way to get kids to school. We have a terrific story to tell, and we're proud to tell it. Our drivers have been delivering generations of school children safely. We are pleased to be a part of that school day for the several million children that are safely transported. One of the things that I tell my drivers at the beginning of every school year and throughout the year is that they have to keep in mind they are the first person that child's going to see at the beginning of the morning. We set the attitude, we set the tone for the whole day. So I tell them, you got to leave Grumpy Gus at home. All right? We need to greet the child with smiles. Engage them as they get on. Someone that they may know may do sports, so we want to ask them, how was your day today? How was your football game over the weekend? Simple things like that honestly really set the tone for that child. Whereas if they get on the bus and the driver is just sitting there with a blank look on its face, staring straight ahead, yep, okay, go on, sit down, that doesn't set a positive tone for that child. And therefore their day begins a downward spiral from that point on. Whereas when they're greeted with a smile, at times even with their names, that's a positive start. And then I go a little further and I tell them, and remember, at the end of the day, you're the last person that they're going to see for school. So again, smiles, tell them, hey, have a good rest of the day and we'll see you tomorrow. So that's always something that I've always told the drivers. I repeat that numerous times. So caring for our children is not a part-time job. It's a way of life for us. The safe transportation of children has been and continues to be our primary focus. Federal studies have proven this simple fact. The yellow school bus is the safest way to get kids to school. Every day, an estimated 480,000 yellow school buses travel the nation's roads, carrying roughly 26 million students. Here in our school district, last year alone, we transported just over 28,000 students and traveled over 50,000 miles. Compare that with public transit, with a total of 140,000 total vehicles. 96,000 which comes from your everyday transit buses, MTD and so on and so forth. The motor coach industry with its SPAB buses, 35,000 buses. Commercial airlines, 7,400 airplanes, and rail with 1,200 passenger cars. We're easily 3.5 times the size of all of those combined. The safety record of the school bus industry is unparalleled. The school bus industry has an outstanding record of safety and achievement. It is estimated that children are roughly 70 times safer on a school bus than any other form of transportation. Here in this school district, we have not had an actual reportable school bus accident since 2014. And that did not actually incur a injury to a student. It was a pedestrian that was injured at that time. Now, let's talk about our fleet. We currently have 7 buses in our fleet. Bus number 1 is a 2002 Thomas HDX with over 140,000 miles on it. It sits 84 passengers and currently has no seat belts. Bus number 2, this is our main sped bus. This is a 2013 International CE conventional bus with over 72,000 miles. Carries 42 passengers and is equipped with 3-point lap and shoulder belts. Bus number 3, this is our other sped workhorse. This bus transports our students from the Carpinteria area to our sites in Santa Barbara that we use for some of our special education. Makes roughly 4 trips a day into Santa Barbara. This is a 2016 Thomas Minotaur bus with 55,000 miles on it. It has a seating configuration of 20 seated passengers and or 6 wheelchair positions, also equipped with 3-point seat belts. And there actually is 4 seats that are equipped with star seats. Those are smaller seats for smaller kids. The reason that it's 20 and 6, you wouldn't fit all of them in the same bus, is it's a combination. So in order to get 6 wheelchairs, I'd probably have to go down to about 8 passengers. We take seats out. So the passenger rating on that one is variable depending on the seating arrangements that we use for it. Moving right along, bus number 4. Bus number 4 is one of our spare buses that we use for SPED. It is a 1998 Thomas Vista bus with over 168,000 miles on it. This is another variable seating one. It carries 28 passengers or 4 wheelchairs and has some seat belts that were retro installed. Those were installed primarily for the car seats for certain special ed students. Bus number 6 is one of our newer buses. It's 2016 Thomas HDX with 26,000 miles on it. It is an 82 passenger bus equipped with 3-point lap shoulder belts. Bus number 7, the sister bus to bus number 6, is also a 2016 Thomas HDX bus with 26,000 miles on it, or just slightly over that. Is also an 82 passenger bus with 3-point lap shoulder belts. And last but not least is bus number 9. Bus number 9 is a 2004 Thomas Freightliner conventional bus with 163,000 miles on it. It is, again, one of our spare buses. It is a 72 passenger conventional with no seatbelts. We also have a white fleet consisting of 7 vans. 4 vans are 2002 Chevy 9-passenger vans. We have 2 2014 Ford E157 passenger vans and 1 2001 Ford E357 passenger with a wheelchair position in the very back. The vans we use are primarily for instance, the sports up at the high school and various programs throughout the day at the different sites that need a van just to transport a couple kids here or there. Unfortunately, we kind of changed slides at the last minute, so sometimes this isn't coming up. California Vehicle Code Section 27316. California requires 3-point seatbelts on all school buses manufactured on or after July 1st, 2005 that carry more than 16 passengers, and all of the school buses manufactured on and after July 1st, 2004. It requires school bus transportation providers, when feasible, to give priority to elementary school students when allocating seatbelts equipped with school buses. Our 2 buses, bus number 6 and bus number 7, are primary workhorses for our elementary school children. They are, well, actually for the entire district. They carry the bulk of our students, and those are the ones that are equipped with seatbelts. There currently is a law that was just signed into effect that will require all school buses in the state to be either retrofitted with 3-point lap shoulder belts by 2035, or actually replaced with new buses that have the 3-point shoulder harnesses. We were told by one of our agencies that probably that 2035 will be a little sooner. California Code Regulation, Title 5, Section 14105. State regulations require school bus passengers to use seatbelts and to be taught how to use them in an age-appropriate manner. So when a school bus is equipped with seatbelts, students are required to use them while they sit there. And we go over generally in the beginning of the year when students are first getting on, we kind of help some of the smaller ones out and teach them how to use it. Title 13, California Code of Regulations, Chapter 6.5, the Motor Carrier Safety, Section 1217. This relates to the number of passengers that we can carry on our school buses. Going back to some of the bigger buses, for instance, our bus number 1, where it says it carries 84 passengers. That is depending on the size of the passenger. Seats are 39 inches wide. So in order to fit 3 passengers to a seat, which is what we would have to do to get that total 84 passenger rating, that child would have to be no wider than 13 inches. So basically, according to federal regulations, we cannot place a child in a school bus seat unless they are fully within the actual seating area. So as a child gets bigger, we can no longer fit 3 to a seat, so that 84 passenger rating starts dropping down. So for instance, in a high school situation, the max we could carry would be 56 students or 56 adults, some combination thereof. We actually extend that down into our junior high. So that's where we start with our seating is 56 passengers. And we try and explain that to our teachers because a lot of times they hear, oh, wait a second, you have an 84 passenger bus. Well, yes, we do, but we don't put 84 middle school kids in it because then you're going to be having some of those students what we used to refer to as cheeking it with one cheek on and one cheek off, which we are no longer allowed to do. Home to school transportation is not required by educational code or law for the general education students. If it were, then the state would be paying for it. School districts are basically on their own whether or not they want to do this or not. Okay, the directive for us to transport our children can be found in our board policies 3540 through 3543. And administrative regulations 3541 and 3543. Okay, so administrative regulations 3541, which is the transportation routes and services. So what we have here is basically an overview of what we consider our no transportation zone. Back in very early 2000s, the state started taking money away from school districts for transportation. The school districts were left with a choice, either completely get out of the transportation altogether or find a way to do it with less people. The way they did this was to create no transportation zones. So you have your elementary school children within a 2-mile radius, which are excluded, your middle school kids at a 2.5, and your high school at 3 miles. Students eligible for transportation without regard to boundary limits. This deals with certain areas within our community, especially along Foothill Road up by the high school, either direction on Foothill because there are absolutely no sidewalks. Foothill is a main thoroughfare, state route number 192. It is used as a major bypass to the freeway, so there's constant traffic. So that's why those students in that area are transported. Also, the one form of transportation that is mandated within not only the state but by federal guidelines is our transportation of students with disabilities. All right, under Administrative Regulation 3541.2, transporting students with disabilities, those students with IEPs with transportation as a related tag would get transportation so long as it is designated by the IEP team. So there's some criteria within that needs to be met before transportation is assigned. A real basic one would be that without transportation, that child would have no hope of being able to participate in a normal school day. So when that comes in during an IEP, the student wouldn't otherwise be able to get to school or make it to school. The IEP team says, yeah, we're going to provide transportation, and that's how we set it up. All right, under 3541, this is our basic route planning and how we do it. Most of the stops within our school district were established decades ago. And then in 2005, when we entered into the no transportation zone, most of those were eliminated, but we kept most of the ones in the outer regulation. So that would affect our students along Highway 150 out into Summerland, out by the polo fields. Those students would be transported. As per Administrative Regulation 3541 and Board Policy 51116.1, the district shall not be obligated to provide transportation for students who attend school outside of their attendance area. This relates to intra-district transfers, school of choice, even the DLI program. If it's a voluntary program and you're making the choice to move your student to another school other than their regular attendance, we're not obligated to provide transportation. We post our routes online, and we make our notifications at the beginning of the year via Parent Square. In fact, one of those notifications was made by the school just recently for both Aliso and Catalina when we switched our kinder times over to 3:30. 2:30, thank you. Yeah. I had to make one mistake in there. So basically, and then there will be another notification going out after a while, basically that we've redone the stops. I am currently going through our stops right now. I normally take about the first month and a half to evaluate all of our routes, our student ridership, who's on the bus, who's not on the bus. And then what we do is we take those stops and we place them into an inactive file. We do not eliminate them because eliminating a stop creates a problem, so we make them as inactive. For instance, on the last point there, new stops along Highway 150 must be approved by the CHP. One of the reasons for that, why we place a stop in an inactive rather than eliminating it, is because Highway 150, the speed is 55 miles an hour. Under state law, it's considered an exempt stop, which means that when a school bus comes up, so long as the speed is 55 miles an hour or greater, and the school bus can get off of the main traveled section of the roadway, the school bus is not required to activate its red lights. However, the CHP can come along and say, no, we want the red lights on, so they can override that. So the stops that we currently have along 15 are all exempt. So we do not have to go back to the CHP every year. So that's why we stick them on the inactive. Also, the other reason for placing a stop on inactive is I don't then have to every year be sending a flood of emails to Diana asking her for permission, because under state law, she's the one that has to approve all new stops. So what we do is every year I put out our district stops, and that's why we pare them down later. That way, if I create a new one, then I send Ms. Rigby an email asking her permission to do that. And then we take that email and we file it away so that we are sticking with state law. Route service interruptions. As we all know, during January and the devastating mudslides, that took out several of our bridges in this area. One that has affected one of our routes and continue to affect one of our routes. As I mentioned earlier, children along Foothill from the high school west would normally get transportation. However, with the bridge going out at mile marker 15.5, we cannot get into that area whatsoever. Someone asked if we could go up Cravens and make a right-hand turn. Unfortunately, the problem with Cravens Road is it is a very narrow road. I can't even get one of my buses up there if there's another large tractor trailer coming down. So that right there creates a problem. Plus, the buses cannot make a right turn from Cravens onto Foothill without actually going off of the roadway into the dirt, which by California highway law, that's illegal for a school bus to do. So I have talked both to Caltrans and to the contractor for the bridge. The original estimate was 18 months. They have been doing quite well. They are estimating right now, and he said it's a real rough estimate if things go well, by mid to late December, reopening that bridge. So hopefully, New Year in January, we can bring that Foothill route back in and have it back online. Transportation for school-related trips. This is kind of how we do our field trips here in the district. School field trips are and athletic trips. We primarily, or we try to use the yellow school bus, district vans, charters, in that order. If a school bus is available and it's not going to conflict with any of our routes, then we use the school bus first. From there, we go to the charter system, which is a two-tier system that consists of using one of the charter companies called Student Transportation of America or Durham School Services. They operate yellow school buses, and so we normally go to them first. Beyond that, then we go to charter companies such as Santa Barbara Airbus, Barnes Transportation, just to name a couple of them. There are also vans available, the white ones that we talked about earlier, and those are primarily for the sports teams when they have, like, for instance, 12 or 14 passengers going out. It makes more sense to put them in a van than put them in a big bus. It saves a little bit more money. In that case, what we're doing is we're using parent volunteers and coaches. Now, in order for a parent volunteer or even a coach to drive one of our vans, obviously with the coaches, they're fingerprinted at the beginning of the year, but we also ask our parent volunteers, since that's also state law, they have to be fingerprinted before they're alone with the children. We then ask them to submit their driver's license for DMV record review. So when I get a copy of that, I send an electronic notice off to DMV, and then DMV sends me their driving history. And then we make the appropriate decision based on that driving history, whether they would be appropriate in driving one of our vehicles. One of the last steps is we actually have a kind of a permission form for these drivers. It goes over all the rules and regulations that we have for our vans. They have to sign not only that they have read and understand that, but that they will abide by it. That form must also be signed off by the site principal, and in the case of the high school with the sports, also by the athletic director. This gives the principals a little bit of say in who's driving their children around. That way, if there's someone that they know might be a little questionable that they don't want to have around the children, they can say that. They can say, no, I really don't want that person driving. Charter buses, one of the questions that has come up when we use them. Yes, we know that they're more expensive. In some cases, they are the recommended form of transportation. For instance, our trips down to Simi, down into Long Beach. Those were the preferred method of transportation, primarily because two reasons: time, they were leaving early in the morning, and I wouldn't be able to get a school bus back. And number two was luggage, because they have really large luggage bays, and sometimes kids tend to overpack for stuff like that, and I can't fit that underneath a school bus. So we put them in the large charter buses. Now, even though they're in the large charter buses, those buses are governed by the same rules and regulations that school buses are. So while the children are in those buses, they have to abide by all the same rules as they do in a school bus. One of the major rules that has been coming up has been staying seated. Some of the people think that because they have asked for charter buses that they can get up and move around the charter buses at will, which they cannot. There's actually a section in the California Vehicle Code that prohibits it. Everyone in that bus must remain seated at all times. So therefore, they can't even get up to use the restroom. If a child needs to use the restroom, then someone needs to make the driver aware. Most of the charter drivers or companies that I've talked with say, hey, if we need to, we'll pull over. It's not a big deal. But it's not worth it for them, for their drivers to lose their credentials. It's become a major point of emphasis. It's been a law for several years, but after 2014, with the charter bus that was struck in Northern California by the FedEx truck, where 8 students were killed, 4 of those students were actually standing at the time. 2 of those were ejected out of the front window. The CHP made that a major point of emphasis in going after charter buses and saying, hey, you got to keep these kids in their seats at all times.
Excuse me, the charter buses have seatbelts, of course.
Some do. Not all.
All the ones that we charter?
The newer ones do. There actually is a new law that I believe as of 2017, all new charter buses purchased within the state of California have to have 3-point lap shoulder belts, but a lot of the older ones still do not. Many of the charter companies, however, are being proactive and actually replacing the seats and getting seatbelts in those buses. Camera installation is almost complete after several years. A previous supervisor had started the project and then stopped it. I currently took that project back up. We have the cameras in place. We're now dealing with a hardware issue with the DVR in the actual school buses. So we're working through that to get that. But we do have 3 of the school buses which have active cameras in them. And I am also very proud to announce that this district became compliant with SB 1072 prior to the original deadline of July 1st of this year. Senate Bill 1072 is called the Paul Lee School Bus Safety Act. In 2014, an 18-year-old special ed student lost his life in a school bus in the LA area when he was left on the school bus. And the driver actually completely left the facility without making a school bus check. The company did have a policy in place that drivers are supposed to go back and check the buses. However, the driver failed to do that. Mr. Lee was a nonverbal special ed student and had no way of communicating to anyone on the outside world that he was still in the bus. They found him later that afternoon. Because of that, the state passed a new law, SB 1072, that requires all school buses now to actually have an electronic child check device in them. It requires the driver to actually physically get up out of his seat, go back to the back of the bus, and press a button. Oop. Well, that picture didn't come through. We partnered with Zonar back in 2017. In November, we started talks with them about getting the devices on board. They partnered with Child Checkmate. So what we have is not only the drivers turning off the device, we actually get a electronic record of those devices being deactivated in the bus. We also get an electronic record if the driver fails to deactivate that. I'll get a text message stating that it didn't happen, so that prompts me to go out and double check the bus and make sure that everything's all right. The Zonar system also, we are now using that with our pre-trip checks in the morning. It has eliminated for me a stack of paperwork. We are required to keep roughly 1 year's worth of daily vehicle inspection reports on hand for the CHP. So by going with these devices, we've completely eliminated that because the Zonar system is one that is accepted by the state. Our CUSD safety board approved on 6/12/18. You all saw this. This is something that we are required by state law to have on hand at every individual site. So there is a red folder at the district office. There's one in my office, as well as every single school site that has this plan. This basically tells our whole story of what we do in various cases. And then we come to our bus drivers. I have been certainly blessed with probably one of the best crews that I could ever ask for. First up is Jack Martinez. Jack has been with the district for 24 years as a school bus driver, and he is currently our warehouseman. So he has a kind of a dual role. He currently drives bus 7 for Aliso, the middle school, and the high school. Next is Jose Ochoa. Jose has been with the district for 14 years, but has been driving school buses for 20. He currently drives bus number 6 for Canalino, for the middle school, and for the high school. One of my bright stars, Tamara Marino, is my special ed driver. Tammy has been with the district just shy of 2 years. She's also been driving school buses for 20 years. She currently drives bus number 2 for our in-town sped route. Stacy Butley is one of our new kids on the block. Stacy was hired just about 6 months ago. She's been driving school buses for about 1.5 years total. She currently drives our Santa Barbara Sped Run. Another one of our new hires is Karen LeBrat. She was brought on as a substitute about 6 months ago, and then just this last week we brought her on permanently. She drives a very early morning route to Santa Barbara with one student, and then another student down to the Venturi area to catch a van into Newbury Park. So she has been also driving for 6 months and a van. And then there's me. I've been to the district now about 23 months. I've been a manager and a state certified school bus instructor for the past 11 years and have been driving for a little over 22 years in school buses. So, I thank you for your time. Questions?
Fabulous.
So, Michael, that was really informative and
Thank
very
you.
interesting, and I feel like that our children are really safe. Like, who knew that there was so many things in place, and you're extremely knowledgeable. So, I feel great having you in that role.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the first report I've ever gotten on the transportation department since I've been on the board. So it's really great to hear this.
We'll do it again next year.
Stay tuned.
I just had a few questions.
Sure.
How many kids actually ride the bus every day?
That kind of varies from site to site. We probably have about, I want to say we'd have about 90, probably close to 100 kids riding our buses every day. That's just in one direction.
Okay. And the part that I've been kind of wrestling with or thinking about, I guess, has to do kind of with our goal for ridership. So I appreciate that you kind of brought in those regulations and explained the historical piece about the money piece. With that 2 mile radius, is it fair to say then that as our ARs are written right now, that are we trying to capture all students outside of a 2 mile radius, or what is the goal for our ridership?
Well, yeah, the board policies were actually written and developed in Sacramento, then transpired down to us. So everything else that we're trying to capture would be outside that 2 mile radius. Yeah.
But are we trying to offer every kid outside the 2 mile radius a safe way to get to school. Is that the goal?
We try.
Okay. I just say this because, honestly, my daughter, we've been in the district this is our 3rd year now, and every year the bus has been really challenging for us. I wasn't aware that the routes were online, and even if they are, like what I've just found the whole process to be extremely cumbersome as a parent. And we do live on Foothill, and we do live outside the 2-mile radius. So we are kind of the target of what CUSD is trying to capture. So I really appreciate all this background information. I just, I know we're just not. Another piece is we say in our board regulations that we want the lists of stops to be published in our local newspapers. I've never seen that. So it says that they should appear in local media. And I'm not sure if they're in Spanish, and I've never actually seen a map. It's just a list of like places, which honestly is not the way I kind of think. And I think, unless you want to Google every single place, if you don't know the names of those streets. And then the last piece is just with, like the bridge being closed. So we now drive along Foothill every single day. And, for us, it's whatever. It is what it is. But I see high school students now every day walking along Foothill at that hairpin curve where there's no visibility on either side of it. And it's just a matter of time before one of those kids gets hit. So I wish that we'd had more of a can-do attitude the way we did with the sort of transportation bus plan during the and I really don't understand why we didn't create alternate bus stops like along Via Real or temporary bus stops for us. We both work in Santa Barbara. I think a lot of people on Foothill probably work in Santa Barbara, allowing them to do drop off. So, creating 2 temporary stops along Via Real. That's just a suggestion. But what I'm trying to say is, yes, Caltrans has said that they hope that bridge opens in December. Honestly, if there's a big flood or a washout, it could be February, it could be longer. So I'd like to see more parent outreach and involvement, and not just sort of saying, oh, well, our bus stops, like, I really would like to see more. I think a lot of parents don't realize they might live outside that 2-mile zone and not even know how to catch the bus. Honestly, when we caught it the first year, we just stood outside and sort of crossed our fingers and hoped that the bus would come. And then the bus stopped, and we said, what do we do? And they said, well, just get on. And it was very haphazard. So I would like to see more strategic use of our buses. If we're spending all this money to have them, I would love to see outreach to the parents, a survey of ridership. We shouldn't be guessing about how many kids take the bus, but we really should be saying, this is how many kids we want, and then be proud of it, because the other piece is right now there's so much traffic in Carp. And we've already had a kid. I was actually on the scene when that kid was hit along Carpenter Avenue. I happened to be just driving by, and there was another kid hit on Foothill last year too. So I think from an environmental standpoint and just a transportation standpoint, we should be maxing out our buses to the degree that we can, and really, like, yeah, our DLI program is at Canalino, but honestly, Canalino and Aliso are so close together. Like, the fact that we can't figure out a way, anyway, so I'd be happy to talk to you. I have a lot of ideas. If you did want to kind of come up with a more can-do, parent-oriented way to outreach to families, I think there's I don't think we're tapping into our full ridership at all. And I think that that's a lost opportunity financially, but also just transportation-wise. If you go stand outside Canalino any day of the week, and parents are infuriated with we got a letter, in fact, to the board this week, I think, about how frustrated families are about how dangerous it is. So anyways, that's my 2 cents, and I'll leave it at that. So thank you.
Definitely something we can take into consideration.
Thank you, Michael, and please thank your team for such a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
All right, we're on to D7, Superintendent Evaluation and Goals. This is our second reading. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve second reading.
Second.
Discussion? Okay.
Oh, I had some thoughts.
Okay.
So, Ms. Rigby has tied a lot of her achievement to this LCAP goal, number 1, if everyone wants to turn to that, I don't know, which have to do with increases in test scores. The real problem I have with that is beyond other points that I've made, is just a logistics piece. We create this evaluation in the fall, and we evaluate the superintendent in the spring. However, the results of those scores are not available until the following fall. So this seems like a completely inappropriate way to evaluate the principal, or the superintendent.
Well, we actually get preliminary scores right after the test, which is one of the reasons it's electronic, so that we get kind of instantaneous. They're not released by the state for public view until the fall, but our school district gets them almost immediately.
But they're not released to the public.
No, but they're released to the district, which includes us.
So, again, I don't think in the spirit of transparency and, we're trying to create a what do you call it? Like an assessment tool that is transparent and holds everyone accountable. And yet we're saying, just trust us that the superintendent reached these marks. As far as I understand it, the same assessment was used last year, and these marks were not met, by the superintendent. And so I don't know why having them again and having them not met again is a good idea.
So in my opinion of it, a goal is a goal, and that the goal for the superintendent is to raise achievement for all students in the district. Now, we can't control every factor that affects students and cohorts, and each cohort is different. But I'll kind of bring back the question of, what Andy asked last time is, if it's not the superintendent's overall responsibility for LCAP goals, whose would it be?
That's not the question I'm asking, though.
I'm asking it.
Okay, but the question I'm asking is, were these met last year? No. So why are we continuing to use them? My whole point is to have...
some of these were met
excuse
last
me.
Some of these were
Excuse
met
me.
last year, though.
I'm speaking specifically to this LCAP goal number 1. So these were not met last year, and so it seems not unintelligent to use the same... It's like if you ask an employee to do something and give them, a percent, give them a task, that task isn't met, and then you give them the same task again. It seems to me you could either say, well, the employee is the problem, or you could say the assessment's the problem. I choose to say, personally, I think the assessment is the problem, because I think these goals are way too vague and not possible to be accomplished in basically 9 months for anybody.
It's not meant to be done in 9 months. It doesn't even have a date, but a goal is a goal. I mean, if our goal is 60%, whether it takes 1 year or 10 years, that goal is not going to change.
But this is we're creating an assessment tool for an employee. This is an assessment tool for the district. So we have to hold somebody accountable.
Yeah.
And but this is the same tool we used last year. It wasn't met last year. Why do we suddenly think it's going to be met this year? And why not create a tool that could be met? Why not? Why not create a tool that could actually be met, and then everybody gets to have a win? The district can say, look, we created an actionable item, and the employee can feel good that they met the goal, and then it's a win-win for everybody.
So you didn't answer this question last week, but who's in charge? Who's responsible for achieving or making sure the district does its best to achieve these LCAP goals? Which person in the district is responsible for that? Okay, I personally think it's the superintendent, and I think almost everyone else would agree that the superintendent is in charge, is responsible for ensuring the district satisfy the LCAP. And if they aren't able to do that, you know, then their job is to hold their principals accountable for the goals set forth at each site. So, you know, our job is to make sure the superintendent is able to achieve or has goals and works to achieve them. If they don't achieve them 100%, if we make progress, I think that's important.
We went down considerably, so
Well,
we didn't
Maureen,
make progress.
how many school days did every student in this district miss last year because of a natural disaster? I mean,
It's going to show up in test
16?
scores.
California went down and the county went down.
Yeah.
So we all went down together.
So perhaps again, the assessment tool is not the right tool. If we're there is a way to build a tool that that shows some level of achievement and success for the person being assessed. That is very specific to our district. Again, I'm also going to just follow up with the point that, as I read last time, the CSBA has very clearly stated that the superintendent assessment tool should be a collaborative process between the board and the superintendent. That doesn't mean the board being presented with a document to then rubber stamp. It means a collaboration. And twice I asked Ms. Rigby, how would you like us to collaborate? Last time during the first reading, I very specifically said I would like to see this have actionable, action items. At no point was I followed up with to say, hey, what are your ideas for how to make this more specific? At no point was I involved or brought in. Everyone else seems to think it's fine. So personally, my biggest problem, and I said this last year during this process, at the end part of this process, it's not the process, how we assess our top employee in the district is extremely important. It's a representation of how we want to assess every single member of our employee. And from my point of view, the most important points are concrete, actionable, and transparent, and collaborative from the top down and the bottom up. And unfortunately, I gave Ms. Rigby an opportunity to collaborate last time. I was not followed up with that, and I am not seeing it here. And for that reason, I can't support this process.
Jacqueline?
So this board theoretically operates as a team, and if one member of the board doesn't feel that she has enough communication with the superintendent, doesn't mean that does not exist with the rest of the team. So it's unfortunate that you feel this way, but I feel very confident that to support these goals, and it's something that we work towards. And if we don't meet those goals, then that data tells us something, and that's when we go back and say, hey, what's going on? And for last year, we kind of figure out there's several things that are going on. So that's, if we keep moving the goalposts, we're never going to figure out what's going on. So I feel very confident that this is a good set of goals for evaluation of the superintendent.
To also put it in perspective, 2 of the 5 people here did not approve of the evaluation as it stood. Two of the 5 people here as well, who tended to approve of the evaluation, will not be actually completing the evaluation. So, to my mind, if I'm working with a team, as we are, hopefully, a team of 6, and 2 of those 6 people are saying, hold up, this process doesn't seem to be working. Of course, it's not, you don't have to check in with those 2 people and say, how could we work better, except that the CSBA has specifically said that collaboration and creating, a collaborative experience is a key part of this process. And I would love to hear how somebody else felt they've been collaborated with, because I just have not seen that. And by collaboration, I mean asked what your opinion was and then have things change as a result of that opinion. I have not seen that in this process.
Well, discussion during an action item is the collaboration. So this is the time to state people's opinions, and once they're stated, then we'll vote. Rogelio, do you have anything to state?
Yes, I think that there's 6 of us, and actually the 6 of us should agree. Otherwise, there's something there that hasn't been met. That's what I think. And these 4 pages of the superintendent's evaluation, actually it's the same as last year, exactly the same question by question. And I think that there's some need for improvement there. So I'm questioning the evaluation.
So during the first reading, we asked specifically
Yeah, and and
what changes
Yeah.
were to be
Actually-
offered, and we were given none.
Well, that's not true. What you said is, rather than spend time on this right now, why don't you follow up with Superintendent Rigby with your specific criteria?
That's incorrect.
That
I
was
believe
my
what I
understanding.
said, let me correct you, was please think about it, bring your suggestions to the second reading, and I'm not hearing any specific suggestions.
So what I did is I actually reached out to Ms. Rigby personally by email and asked her how she would like to collaborate, because in my experience, collaboration is a two-way experience. I could have come up here and created, 5 pages worth of things that, I think should have been on the evaluation. That is not collaboration to
But
me.
you can't collaborate.
So
with
I
just one
asked Miss
person.
Rigby.
It's
I
a
asked
team.
Miss Rigby how she would like to collaborate. No, the answer was basically saying the review is fine as it is. There's no need. And twice I asked her by email privately, how do you expect the board to collaborate? No instructions
So I'm
were
going to
given.
ask for the third time. Are there concrete, specific suggestions you would like for us to consider?
So I just did. I said that we should not use the LCAP because if the information isn't available to the public, then there's no way that we should be evaluating.
You're saying what we should not use, but what are you suggesting we use?
Well, basically, I'm not going to come here tonight and dictate. I mean, I've done this before where I've brought very concrete and specific edits and changes to things that basically get shot down for 45 minutes. So I knew that that wasn't going to be a winning proposition tonight, because I know that the majority of people think this is fine as is. And when I'm working with a group of people who think a document is fine as is and don't value collaboration, then there's really no point to my spending 6 hours outside coming up with specific goals, especially if the superintendent, who I asked twice how she would like to collaborate with me, doesn't even bring up one thing. Like, not even one thing. Like, if somebody asked me at my workplace, Maureen, how would you like us to collaborate? I would come up with at least one suggestion. If the governing body or the kind of national organization for my organization said that collaboration was an important part of a process I was undertaking, I think I would come up with at least one example. So the fact that, basically, I can read from the email, it just...
No, it's not necessary.
But it's not private. I said, how should we collaborate? And it said the annual goals are developed. I mean, there's nothing about collaboration. So my question, twice I asked this question, please tell me what collaboration you'd like to
So
see from
this
myself and the board, and nothing was given.
Conversation's going to
So-
continue to go in circles, so we have
Well,
a
the bottom line
motion.
is collaboration is either
Please
there.
let me run the meeting.
Okay, so we're just going to interrupt people?
You don't think you're interrupting me?
I was just speaking, and you banged the gavel right in the middle of
Yeah,
that.
because this is going around in circles, and part of our agreements and norms were to keep our statements brief and to the point. So this is not a brief.
You could just
conversation.
ask me to wrap things up rather than just completely interrupt.
Well, that's not the way I chose to go. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we're moving on. D8, any public comment? Okay, thank you. Nothing for board policies. We're on to F, educational services. F1, disposal of obsolete materials for English language arts and science. Get a motion?
I move to approve.
Second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
On to business operations and facilities. G1, warrants. The board is asked to approve the warrants for the period of September 20th, 2018 through October 2nd, 2018 in the amount of $938,479.08.
I move to approve.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
I have a discussion on that point.
Okay.
Specifically, I'm curious how we deal with legal fees. I asked if there was a contract for those, and we do not seem to have a contract or an MOU for those. So how do we kind of keep a check and balance on the level of our legal fees?
Our legal fees are a budgeted item. The reason why we don't have contracts is because each area of concern requires us to use specialized law firms. So we use a variety of law firms in our work, and so we use the legal services, and then they bill us for those hours.
But, I mean, they could be billing us $300,000. There's no check or balance on how we...
No. We know exactly how much time and what problem we're asking them to assist us with. And so we know exactly how many hours we've spent with each firm, and they bill us according to those hours at their hourly rate. So we are very careful to monitor our expenditures. However, in school districts in California, like across the nation, has the most laws and interpretation. So for personnel, we need legal counsel. For contract negotiations, we need legal counsel. For Measure U bond sales, we need legal counsel. For discipline, we need counsel. We're not different
Special
than any
ed?
other, yes, specialized counsel. We're not different than any other school districts.
Well, for other, and I think this is a moot point at this point, but I'm just wondering about check number 015355244 for U.S. Bank, what those expenditures are for?
Yes. These are CalCard payments for cardholders that have used the purchases for online and in-store in which the vendor does not take purchase orders.
But what exactly are those purchases? $20,000, $20,723.05 worth of purchases.
I'm sure Maureen we can provide you with a list.
These range from chairs to food for our OYO and for our high school science classrooms to subscriptions. It's a variety. There's about 20 card holders, 24 card holders district-wide, and every month they're combined in a payment.
I would like to see an invoice of that following up.
There are several, and those would be something that you can come and view anytime. They're quite large.
Okay, thank you.
More questions on warrants? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're on to G2, gifts, grants, donations. G2 is a donation, G2A is a donation from Carpinteria Education Foundation to CUSD Arts Program in the amount of $40,000.
I move to approve.
I'll second that with great gratitude.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. We're returning to item C3 from consent. agreement between Carpinteria Unified School District and Family Service Agency of Santa Barbara for 2018-19 school-based counseling and other services.
I move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
My question regarding this had to do with the fact that we learned from Ms. Escobedo's presentation that counseling was capped for families who were not eligible for Medi-Cal. Just clarifying who this is going to be for, since it's going to be paid for with special ed funds.
Yes. Mental health counseling is under the Department of Special Education. So that's where the line item is for supporting our therapists.
Right, and so
Our
with
contracts for FSA and CADA are paid from the line item in the special ed department. And the counseling is for students who need counseling.
But are we still having that same quandary with the Medi-Cal situation because it's FSA?
Our START therapists are limited to serve only Medi-Cal eligible students, yes.
These students here?
What students?
Well, the students that would be available that would be using this counseling.
The students who use the counseling from FSA and CADA are students who are Medi-Cal eligible, yes, in our district.
Well, no, that's not what she said. She said that they received counseling up to a certain point and then were not eligible for more counseling because it was capped, because they were eligible for 6 sessions, and then after that it was for Medi-Cal.
No, you misunderstood. What she was saying is that the therapists are capped in the number of students they can see because they can only see students who are Medi-Cal eligible. It has nothing to do with the amount of therapy sessions.
So are these students, what I'm trying to say is this amount that we're approving, we're using special education funds. So does that limit who can be seen by these counselors to special education students who are designated special education students or Medi-Cal students?
They're not special ed students. All students can receive these services if they are Medi-Cal eligible.
So we're
It has
currently
nothing to do with special ed status.
So currently, we only have counseling for students who qualify for Medi-Cal?
From the START therapist, but our district provides counselors at every school site, and they serve all students. This is for our START therapist contract. We have a START therapist at every school site that is funded by FSA and CADA. They are limited on their caseload to see only Medi-Cal eligible students because they charge us half of what it costs to provide the services. So their funding comes from collecting Medi-Cal. So it has nothing to do with special ed status.
But that's where the money is coming from?
As I said, all of our counseling services are under the auspices of special education. So that line item is in the special education budget.
And this is something that just popped up now?
No, every year at this time, we approve both the CADA and the FSA contracts.
Okay.
Every year.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. C9, GAN limit calculation and resolution number 18-836, adopting the GAN limit revised resolution number.
Move to approve.
Second that.
Discussion?
I just was wondering what happened here because there was obviously a mistake made, so I just wanted to clarify what happened.
Yes, it says right here, the resolution number was incorrect. It was previously assigned to a previous approved resolution. This is returning the documents to the board for approval with a corrected resolution number. So now we have to ask you to again approve the corrected resolution number.
But I guess I was asking how the mistake was made.
A mistake was made. I don't know, I mean, how? The two numbers were put on the same document.
Maybe a number was transposed or reversed.
All right, all those in favor?
This is a roll call.
Roll call.
Maureen?
Aye.
Rogelio?
Aye.
Jacqueline?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
And I'm aye.
On to H, Measure U, purchase, H1, purchase with KI for new classroom furniture at Carpinteria Middle School, Gen 7s. Total cost is $83,193.60 to be paid for with Measure U funds.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
H2, Resolution Number 18835 of the Governing Board of the Carpinteria Unified School District supports of applications for eligibility determination and funding authorization to sign applications and associated documents. Need a motion?
Move to approve.
A second.
Discussion? Roll call.
I think it's irresponsible to make any building plans on a school site that's been recently designated a floodplain, the entire area, and also a school site that is projected to have a significant impact due to sea level rise within 50 years. So
That site's always been in a floodplain.
I understand that there's a real rush to, get more funding to augment our Measure U things, but I've asked us to take a pause and regroup and have a chance to really pivot on some of these things, especially with ELISO, and it doesn't appear that that's happening. So that I cannot support any moves to. I just think it's foolhardy to create building in a floodplain and in a seriously impacted flood area without really studying that and thinking hard about it.
Okay, roll call.
Maureen?
Nay.
Rogelio?
Abstain. Abstain.
Jacqueline?
Yes.
Michelle?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm aye.
All right, we're on to H3, approval of change order number 1 for G-Wing new walkway and doors at Carpinteria High School. Change order is in the amount of $12,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? H4, approval of change order number 3, modular buildings purchase for Carpinteria Middle School. The change order is in the amount of $1,187.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 H5, acceptance of completed contract, administration and cafeteria roof replacement at Carpinteria High School with Craig Roof Company, Inc.
Move to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay. Discussion? All those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? H6, Infinity contract for management of RFP and E-rate Category 2 project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
I think it's, again, irresponsible to use a 30-year bond to pay for something that's going to be irrelevant in 5 years. So this would be equivalent to somebody going out and buying a computer with the routing equipment with a 30-year long credit card. No one would do that. And I think if you put it that way, it seems ridiculous. So there's no way, and I've looked into this, it's not good fiduciary responsibility. Construction bonds should not be used to pay for electronics. And I support us having up-to-date electronics, and I support us finding other financial sources for those. We should not be using Measure U monies for this.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Item I, personnel. Approval for the personnel
Move to
summary.
approve.
Second.
Discussion?
I just want to note for the record that many of our kind of turnover seems to be in the area of instructional aides. I think that's important to keep track of as we plan and move forward. Instructional aides are a hugely important part of our district, and their long-term impact and employment in the district is extremely important to me. And I feel that we really need to, moving forward, looking at the budget, we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to retain and promote and support highly qualified instructional aides in a way that's effective so that we don't have the continued turnover that we are having.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Board communications, Maureen?
I just want to apologize to anyone watching tonight. I hope that I again feel embarrassed about the behavior of this board and the way that we are not functioning well together. We are not collaborating well together. We're not clear on our own goals or mission. And it's clear. So if my daughter is watching, I just want to let you know that this is not how I believe you should behave with your peer groups, and it's not how I think any students here should behave among their classes. On a more hopeful note, Canalino has been awash with a special kind of butterfly near their garden, and I find I was so interested in them that I actually looked it up, and they're a type of butterfly called a passion butterfly that's really interested in nesting and cocooning in the kind of passion fruit vine that's up next to the garden. And the children have gotten involved with that and watched it, and I do think, any group, any organization can be like those butterflies and kind of cocoon itself, do some work, and emerge better for it, but I don't think it's going to happen by accident. And so I have reached out a number of times to various folks and tried to say, hey, let's figure out a way to move forward. I've asked for a board meeting where we can align our goals and values, and I hope that's going to happen. I don't know how we can move forward if we don't make an attempt to be more of a team. And the last thing I want to say is just that, like any democracy, why was it created? It was created to protect the values of the minority. And I happen to be in the minority many times on this board. We're not a fascist state. We're not a dictatorship. The voice of the minority is what makes a democracy important and valued, and protecting not the majority view, which is, it's really easy to protect the majority view. It's what most people think. But protecting the minority view and showing people through our actions that all points of view are valued is, I think, the most important thing we can do, and we're clearly not doing it. So that's all I have to say.
Rogelio?
Yes, actually, I have written three, we call it challenges. One is I would like to see better test scores. I would like to see a better communication with union leadership, and I would like to see a better communication within the board. Those are three huge challenges. And one comment, and this, as you all know, I participated during 16 days of hard bargaining days with the union, representing the district. And on September 26th, there was one meeting with the union leadership, and I wasn't there. That's one question that I have. Why not? I am on that committee, and I didn't miss a single minute last time out of those 16 days. And I missed time with my family. I missed time with appointments because I wanted to be there every single minute. And now there's a meeting, and actually was just put aside. So that's something that I do not understand. Thank you.
Jacqueline?
Just to address some of the concerns, it's, we're a group of people who can't seem to agree on anything, but there is an opportunity here for us to talk and debate, and it's an uncomfortable situation to do so in public, but I just want to say, Michelle, I'm really grateful for your leadership and the way you run the meeting, and I know it's difficult and challenging, but I really appreciate what you're doing and keeping us moving along. Thank you.
I don't have any comments either. All right, board calendar. Tomorrow we have board tours starting at Canalino at 8 o'clock. And then also on October 30th,
Yes.
where are we starting there? Middle school or high school?
We'll start at the high school because it
Okay.
starts earlier at 8.
Great. All right. And then we still have future agenda items of sea level rise presentation by City of Carpinteria, and then a Measure U project update.
I like to bring up a suggestion for a future agenda item, and I realize that I only have a few meetings left, but I think this is something that the next board will need to consider. I hear that we have board members who are asking very specific yet broad information from staff, and I think as a board, if we are, and I've read up on CSBA documents and training, and I know that we've had a CSBA training, it's concerning to me that as board members, when we act as an individual and demand so much of staff time, that we are not working as a group. And I think that is beyond our role as a board. And I truly believe that to be an effective board, we need to collaborate and we need to respect staff time. And I think request or demands for information should go through the president, and it shouldn't be at the whim of one board member. And so I suggest that be a topic of discussion, at a training session, or maybe policy created. But I think it's really critical because it bothers me that that so much staff time is put into something that is at the specific whim of one person, one board member that doesn't represent the team that is supposed to be working together. So,
Thank you. All right, with that, we are adjourned.